On Thanksgiving Day, he posted, "No magic transformation occurs when failed states cross borders. At scale, migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and terrors of their broken homelands."
These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. We don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
When I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people.
I have a couple clips lined up of Ilhan Omar on Face the Nation addressing some of the racist and bigoted vitriolic rhetoric coming from the Trump administration, largely directed at her or Somalians in general. So leave us a like on the video if you can. It helps us out a ton. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, and let's just get right into the breakdown.
There are 80,000 people of Somali descent in your state, but the president has been very focused not just on them, but on you. In this extraordinary cabinet meeting, he said Somalis, quote, "come from hell. They complain and they do nothing but bitch." Take a listen.
These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. We don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
That knocking is vehement agreement from his cabinet members there. I just wonder what the reaction is in your district to have that from the highest office in the land.
It's disgusting. It's completely disgusting. These are Americans that he is calling garbage. And we feel like there is an unhealthy obsession that he has on the Somali community, and an unhealthy and creepy obsession that he has with me.
It's because she represents everything that he hates to see, that his movement hates to see. A brown foreign woman in a position of power. And you have to really understand Trump's psyche, MAGA's psyche. He doesn't see these people as Americans because they are brown. Truthfully, he probably holds the same for most brown people, most foreigners in this country, with the exception of the white South Africans, of course. It just depends how much you are useful to him in terms of how much he's willing to admit this, right? Ilhan Omar, not very useful to him. Somalians, not very useful to him. So he's willing to be a racist outward about it. Hearing him talk about another country like this to try and divide Americans on their ethnicity, this is everything MAGA tells us that we're woke for saying that we haven't moved past as a country, now being blatantly announced and paraded around as like political jargon. People are being stopped by ICE because of their ethnicity, having their American identity questioned because of their ethnicity. I mean, when does it stop? This is not a white man's country, however bad they want it to be.
For us to remember that this kind of hateful rhetoric and this level of dehumanizing can lead to dangerous actions by people who listen to the president.
And 95% of the Somalis in your state are U.S. citizens.
Yes.
That's not true to Trump. It's not true to MAGA. To them, American identity is always a euphemism. It boils down to white identity. American culture is an expression of white culture. So when these people tell you what it means to be an American, it's not a citizen. It's not even someone who's born here. Trump is trying to do away with birthright citizenship because it's always something that comes back to their white-centric view of the world or aids that power structure. And their demonization of minority groups is exactly why they experience the most hate in this country. To think that's not correlated or even causative directly is insane. Islamophobia is on the rise. It's consistently been the largest motivator of hate crimes behind white on black crime. And it's because of rhetoric like this that is so normalized and has been ingrained in our culture since 9/11 that Trump is really bringing back as almost a political talking point. Remember, when Democrats call Trump a fascist, well, that's why Trump gets shot. That's why Republicans are victims and all of this. But when Trump calls an ethnic group criminals who are poisoning the blood of our country and are garbage and come from hell and this and that, well, that, of course, leads to no violence, and it's completely justified.
I want to ask you about something else that the architect of the president's immigration policy, Stephen Miller, said. On Thanksgiving Day, he posted, "No magic transformation occurs when failed states cross borders. At scale, migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and terrors of their broken homelands." What do you make of this argument? of failure to assimilate and sort of ruining America. How do you understand this?
I mean, when I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me, yes, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people.
It's exactly true. Like, this is spot on. And the only way you could deny this is you don't really understand much of Hitler other than, oh, he bad guy, or how Nazis weaponized rhetoric to enable their violence, and which was also a very slow burn. It started with the rhetoric and the propaganda. It didn't start with the internment camps. That's something like MAGA doesn't get when they're like, well, where's the gas chambers? Like, the idea that we should wait for the internment camps before we call this out as fascism is kind of silly to me, right? This is a core tenet of fascism, to be clear, right? Unifying against a common enemy on ethnic grounds, largely the labeling of migrants as criminals who will poison the blood of this country, targeting out Somalis now as even US citizen Somalians with the gross rhetoric that they're not Americans, even though they're citizens. Stephen Miller here essentially spewing out the Great Replacement, something that has been cited in numerous shooter manifestos, like after modern mass shooters, by the way. This rings eerily similar to what we learned about in our history books from those in the Nazi movement. And one party in this country seemingly thinks it's worth it in the name of power. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Don't think it's not on purpose. How they're really targeting you can't call us Nazis. Nazi is not justifiable rhetoric as the Nazi behavior and language and actions are upping. They want to be able to do this and be able to hide in plain sight.